Hey guys, tonight we open with the softest sound imaginable, the crackle of a notebook as it bends in your lap. You're not sitting in some glamorous sci-fi spaceship. No, you're slouched in a drafty observatory where the red safety lights buzz faintly and the coffee has already gone lukewarm. The notebook's spine groans as you tug it open, pages yellowed at the edges, flecked with graphite dust from scribbles of nights past. It feels almost alive, this battered logbook, like an old friend that remembers more than you do. You trace your finger over previous entries, names of stars, times written down with shaky handwriting, and there's something oddly reassuring about it, the sense that you're about to add another layer to this endless, boring somehow comforting story of the sky. You probably won't survive this, at least not consciously. Your brain is already planning a graceful nosedive into dreamland as I talk. And that's the whole point, right? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like sharing, type your location and the time where you are right now. It's always fascinating to know who's listening and from where, as if this notebook has invisible pages scattered all across the planet. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lean back in the creaky chair, the notebook balanced on your knees. You write the date at the top of the page. Tonight's target, a pulsar somewhere out beyond imagination, too far to see, too faint to sense with your own eyes. But the radio dish outside is already alive, humming with faint static as it aligns itself with that pinprick of infinity. You jot down the exact start time. Your handwriting tilts left, drooping as if it too is sleepy. A mainstream fact sneaks in here. Pulsars are neutron stars, collapsed remnants of massive suns, spinning at insane speeds, sometimes hundreds of times per second. Each spin shoots a beam of radiation, and from Earth we catch those flashes like a cosmic metronome. But tonight, you're not chasing grand discoveries. You're basically acting like a sleepy accountant for the universe. Write the numbers. Don't spill the coffee. Try not to fall asleep on the notebook. Your pen scratches faintly. The red light above keeps the room dim enough that the stars beyond aren't drowned out, but bright enough that your handwriting isn't total chaos. Though honestly, you've had worse nights, like that time you wrote an entire page upside down before realizing it. Quirky tidbit for you. Early Pulsar notebooks actually did look like erratic doodles, sometimes mistaken for faulty equipment until patterns emerged. In one famous case, the repeating signals were briefly labeled LGM1. Yes, as in little green men. Imagine the disappointment when aliens turned out to be, well, boring neutron stars. You flex your hand, the ink smearing slightly as you press too hard. A gentle, sarcastic thought bubbles up, because obviously the fate of human knowledge hinges on whether you draw a neat tick mark or a wonky squiggle. And yet, in some way, it does. This is how the universe reveals itself. Slowly, methodically, one tiny scribble at a time. You pause, letting the silence of the observatory expand. Somewhere outside, the massive dish tilts again with a mechanical groan. You can almost hear the faint cosmic heartbeat if you imagine hard enough. In truth, all you're hearing is static, but your brain insists on patterns. Astronomers still argue whether some of the very first pulsar detections sounded too regular to be natural. To this day, debates bubble over whether certain anomalies in the timing reflect physics we don't yet understand or just machine hiccups. You sigh, doodle a small spiral in the margin, and feel your body sink deeper into the chair. Already, the notebook is heavier than it should be, as though the pages have soaked up the fatigue of 1,000 nights. Your eyelids do that lazy half-blink, but you force them open long enough to write one more number, one more second time stamp. like carving your presence into the stream of time itself. The notebook doesn't care if you're a little sloppy. It has space for errors, space for boredom, space for dreams tucked between penciled lines. Somewhere, far beyond, the pulsar ticks on, indifferent to your scribbles, spinning faster than your heart could ever beat. And yet, tonight, the only thing that matters is that you've begun. Notebook open, pen scratching, cosmos whispering. The pen drifts across the page again, and you jot down another set of numbers. Nothing glamorous, just a string of digits marking time. The ink glistens faintly in the red light before dulling into the same tired gray you have already filled. Lines with, each entry feels like you're stretching a thin thread out into space, measuring distance with boredom as your ruler. You lean back, listening. The radio telescope outside hums like a refrigerator left running in another room. It's a soft, ever-present drone that presses into your ears, more soothing than intrusive. You imagine the giant dish craning its neck, tilting millimeter by millimeter, like a mechanical sunflower chasing some invisible photon. If you squint mentally, you can almost picture it basking. You jot down the pulsar's identifier number. It's something long, a mess of digits and letters that looks more like a scrambled password than a star's name. Mainstream astronomy. Fact: pulsars are usually catalogued by their celestial coordinates, because calling them that one spinny dot near Cassiopeia just doesn't cut it for professional science. So you end up writing something like PSRB 1919 plus 21, which, let's face it, feels more like a Wi-Fi password than a cosmic wonder. You doodle a box around it, partly to keep it neat, partly because your brain has already started wandering. And memory drifts up. The first notebooks used in early pulsar work weren't fancy leather journals, just cheap lab pads with coffee stains and bent corners. Yet those scribbles reshaped astrophysics. It's humbling in a low-effort kind of way. Your scrawled notes tonight could, in theory, be part of some monumental discovery. More likely, though, they'll just sit in a drawer for a decade until someone sneezes on them and throws them out. You smirk at the thought and add a little sarcastic flourish to the timestamp. Another entry down. One more boring breadcrumb. On the trail, the static in the room shifts slightly, a gentle crackle over the speakers. Your pen pauses. Did the pulsar just skip? Or was that your tired brain inventing drama in a monotone signal? Quirky tidbit: pulsars occasionally glitch, a sudden jump in rotation speed that scientists still puzzle over. Sometimes it's chalked up to a starquake. Yeah, like an earthquake, but on the crust of a neutron star. Imagine billions of tons of matter snapping like a cold pretzel. Astronomers still argue whether all glitches come from crust shifts, or if some might stem from weird superfluid physics deep inside the star. Either way, you sit here, scribbling numbers, pretending you'd notice if the universe BURPED dot another number goes down in the notebook. The page is filling slowly, like molasses dripping across paper. You shift in your seat, bones creaking just as much as the chair. You add a margin note, steady, because nothing out of the ordinary is happening. Congratulations. The highlight of your night is literally writing the word steady. You glance up at the little clock above the equipment rack. The second hand ticks with unnerving determination. You're caught between two timekeepers. One, the orderly pulsar blinking thousands of light years away. The other, a cheap plastic clock you bought on sale at a grocery store. Both feel equally relentless, though only one could vaporize your entire solar system. If it got moody dot, you rest your pen against your lip, and another half-dream flickers through your head. What if pulsars are beacons? Sure, they're dead stars, collapsed suns spinning with insane density. But doesn't the regularity feel suspiciously like a message? Some researchers in the fringe corners of science once speculated about pulsars as galactic lighthouses natural. GPS towers that aliens might use to navigate. It's a wacky idea, but admit it, you kind of like the thought of E.T. scribbling in their own notebook across the stars, sighing about boring data the way you do now. You stifle a laugh, jot down another. Time's down, and notice your handwriting has started slanting harder. Sleep is slowly tugging on your wrist, dragging your pen south. The numbers lean like drunks against the margin. You let them. The notebook has seen worse. The telescope whirs again outside, adjusting. A faint thud echoes through the floor as the machinery settles. You feel a tiny vibration against your shoes. It's all routine, mechanical, forgettable. And yet there's something soothing about the repetition. Every small noise is predictable, like background percussion in the song of your night. The steady tick of the clock, the hum of electronics, the occasional scrape of your chair when you shift. And of course, the endless scratch of your pen as you add another string of digits to the page. Astronomers still argue whether humans should even bother manually logging this stuff anymore, since computers record everything in ridiculous detail already. But there's a charm in the ritual. The notebook becomes a personal artifact, proof you are here, present, awake enough to care for a few minutes at least. Like carving your initials into a cosmic tree trunk. You sigh, press the pen harder, underline the last entry for emphasis. The ink smudges faintly under your finger, a tiny imperfection in an otherwise forgettable page. You close your eyes for just a second, listening again to the hum, and picture the pulsar's beam sweeping across the void, a lighthouse rhythm that doesn't care if you're awake or asleep. You add one more time stamp with half-closed eyes. The page is nearly full now. The numbers stretch across it like a sleepy mantra, a lullaby written in ink. Your notebook creaks slightly as you flip to a fresh page. The paper, sighing like it too, is tired of being filled with the same looping digits. The pen hovers for a moment above the top margin, hesitating, as if the next string of numbers might suddenly mean something more than just cosmic Morse code. Of course, it doesn't. It's the same steady sequence, the same monotonous rhythm that has become both comfort and torment. You jot it down anyway, because what else is there to do? The hum in the room is louder now, or maybe you've just become more aware of it. Long nights alone in an observatory can trick your senses like that. A constant drone transforms into texture until you begin hearing phantom notes within it. Some astronomers claim they've gone slightly mad during overnight sessions, mistaking the telescope's electronics for voices. You wonder if you'll eventually hear whispers in the static too. Your pen scratches out another entry, a steady heartbeat on the page. Tick, right, tick, right. Every mark drags you further into this liminal rhythm. You think about how Jocelyn Bell, Ernal, must have felt when she first noticed scruff in the radio signals, the discovery that would later be identified as the very first pulsar. At the time, her male supervisors dismissed it as interference, a faulty wire, some trivial noise. But she kept watching, kept logging, and eventually changed astrophysics forever. The thought makes you straighten in your chair a little, even as fatigue presses down on your shoulders. Maybe that's what it's about, not the drama of a single discovery, but the quiet persistence of paying attention when no one else does. These endless lines of digits may feel empty now, but you can't shake the possibility that hidden inside. One of them might be a pattern no one expected. Another time stamp. Another note, unchanged. Your handwriting is a little shakier, letters looping tiredly like laundry left too long in a machine. You rub your temple and glance toward the control. Panel lights blinking in their steady patterns. Green, yellow, green again. It's a quiet little city of signals, glowing like artificial constellations. A memory surfaces. Early astronomers in the 1600s, hunched over primitive telescopes, sketching the heavens by candlelight. They, too, must have wrestled with boredom, cold air, and aching hands, but they kept drawing. Night after night, Jupiter's moons, Saturn's rings, tiny dots becoming revelations. You almost envy them. Their boredom at least came with scenery. You get static and digits dot the static hiccups again, just for a split second. Enough to make. You lift your pen off the paper. Your pulse quickens. Did the pulsar miss a beat? Or is this just the observatory's ancient wiring groaning like it always does? You lean closer to the speaker, ears straining. Nothing. Just the steady hum, as, if mocking your hope, you scribble a margin note. Possible skip? Check later. It looks both important and pathetic at the same time. You imagine some future grad student flipping through this notebook, pausing on that note and frowning. Maybe they'll laugh. Maybe they'll lean forward the way you did tonight. Ears buzzing with expectation dot another number. Another sigh. Another tick of the wall clock. The night stretches on like an elastic band, thinner with each passing moment. You can feel the weight of hours pressing down, bending your thoughts into strange shapes. The pulsar spins on, unaffected, as if laughing across the gulfs of space. Your pen lingers after the last digit. You almost write something else something. Not numerical. A stray thought, a doodle, maybe even a confession. Instead, you press the pen harder and underline the time stamp. Safe, boring, neutral. Still, you can't resist. In the corner of the page, you draw a tiny lighthouse. Just a triangle on a square, with beams stretching outward like jagged arms. The doodle looks childish, but you like it. A private reminder that out there, this spinning corpse of a star is sweeping its light across eternity, again and again, indifferent to whether anyone's awake to notice. You set the pen down for a moment and rub your eyes. Behind your eyelids, the afterimage of the notebook floats rows of digits glowing, faintly in imagined ink. You wonder if they'll follow you into dreams. The observatory hums. The pulsar ticks. The notebook waits for the next line. The clock lurches toward 3 a.m., and you feel the strange, syrupy weight of time settle over you. Hours have stretched so thin, they barely resemble hours anymore. Outside, the desert night presses in against the observatory walls, and the stars overhead spin slowly through their cold choreography. You think about how astronomers in ancient China once kept night watches, meticulously recording celestial movements onto bamboo slips. Their records spanned dynasties, centuries of someone else's insomnia, stitched together into long columns of marks. You smile at the thought. Sleepless ancestors in robes, squinting at stars, now whispering through the pages of history. Your own notebook is a modern cousin to theirs. Except instead of ink and bamboo, you've got spiral binding and mass-produced paper that smells faintly of glue. You flip back a few pages to reread earlier entries. Every line is nearly identical. Pulsar timing is steady, unwavering, as if written by a machine. But that sameness is the very point you're here to catch the oddity, the one beat that doesn't fit. Like a metronome that falters once every few hours, its slip barely audible unless you're stubborn enough to keep listening. Mainstream astronomy fact? Pulsars are unimaginably precise clocks. Some spin hundreds of times per second with a consistency that rivals the best atomic clocks on Earth. You glance at your watch, then back at the notebook, amused by the absurdity. Humans strap fragile gears to their wrists. Neutron stars do. It better while crushed into spheres barely 20 kilometers across. The hum in the room deepens. Or maybe your exhaustion is coloring it. You tap your pen idly against the margin, and in the rhythm, you hear a faint, syncopated counterbeat. Fringe tidbit. Did you know some folks once speculated pulsars might be alien beacons? LGM. Little. Green men was scribbled in early lab notes. You imagine an alien civilization somewhere, rolling their eyes at humans mistaking dead stars for greeting cards. The joke writes itself, humanity's biggest missed call. Still, astronomers argue whether pulsar glitches, those unpredictable slips in rotation, tell us more about the star's crust cracking, or its superfluid core sloshing in strange ways. You picture the inside of a neutron star as a restless soup, bubbling beneath a rigid crust like badly cooked oatmeal. Not that you'd want to stir it. You slump deeper into the chair, notebook open across your lap. Your handwriting has started to tilt at odd angles, numbers leaning drunkenly to one side as your eyes blur. The digits march on, but you barely see them anymore, just rows of black strokes, hypnotic in their repetition. Doubt at some point you catch yourself doodling again. Not lighthouses this time, but concentric circles, like a target. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Each ring feels like a ripple across space-time itself, washing outward from that tiny, furious star, thousands of light years away. You shade them in absent-mindedly, dark to light, until the page looks less like math and more like a vinyl record dot the static hiccups. Sharp, brief. You snap your head up, adrenaline spiking. Your pen is already poised before you realize it might have been nothing more than the heater kicking on. You write it down anyway, a little star beside the time stamp, because boredom breeds superstition. Better safe than sorry, right? Maybe, future you will laugh at the scrawl. Maybe not. You lean back, eyes tracing the faint red glow of the equipment readouts. The air smells of dust, old coffee, and the faint metallic tang of electronics. Outside, coyotes might be yipping at the moon, or maybe that's your brain inventing sounds. You're not sure anymore. Your fingers drum against the notebook cover, and you think about how many nights like this exist in the world at any given moment. Somewhere in Chile, another observer is scribbling notes beneath the southern sky. In Australia, someone's watching pulsars sweep through the ether while cicadas scream outside. You're all tethered to the same cosmic rhythm, separated by oceans, but linked by static dot. Another set of digits goes down. The line looks like all the rest. Your eyelids droop, but you force them open. One more page, one more line. The pulsar won't stop spinning, so why should you? The hum, the numbers, the repetition, they wrap around you like a cocoon. Not unpleasant, just steady, comforting in a weird way. You shift your weight, stretch your legs, and mutter something to yourself. It might have been a joke. It might have been a prayer. The digits wait. You write them. The night holds steady. Your pen scratches across the paper like a restless insect, but the rhythm breaks when you catch yourself counting the wrong number of ticks between pulses. You frown, then laugh quietly, because of course your brain would betray you first, not the pulsar. You rub your temples, shake your head, and lean closer to the glowing dial. The radio hiss fills the room like a soft, endless tide. Outside, dawn still feels like a myth. The observatory windows are black mirrors reflecting your tired face. You shift in your chair, pulling your sweater tighter, and stare again at the steady stream of data. Somewhere out there, that neutron star spins hundreds of times per second, flinging beams of radiation across the cosmos. It's the ultimate lighthouse, except its ocean is the vacuum of space, and its ships are, well, just you, apparently. Mainstream. Fact, these beams are so regular that scientists use pulsars to navigate spacecraft. You picture a lonely probe, light years from Earth, triangulating its position by listening to dead stars. Like interstellar GPS, except instead of satellites, you've got cosmic corpses doing the heavy lifting. A smile flickers. Fringe tidbit. In the 1970s, someone suggested we could sync human biological rhythms to pulsars. Imagine living your life. Not by Earth days, but by stellar beatseat. Every 43 rotations. Nap every 500. You'd never be late, but you'd probably lose friends fast. Astronomers still argue whether Pulsar, nulling moments when the star goes mysteriously quiet, is caused by the beam actually shutting off, or by our instruments missing the signal. You tilt your head, listening harder, as though sheer willpower could coax the static into honesty. The hiss doesn't budge. Your notebook is filling up fast. Numbers march across the page, interrupted by small doodles, arrows, circles, a cartoon eyeball staring sideways at the digits. Each drawing feels like a pressure valve, your way of siphoning off the monotony. You imagine ancient scribes centuries ago sneaking doodles in margins too, maybe little birds beside celestial records. The human impulse to decorate boredom, alive. Across millennia, your stomach growls. You reach for the thermos at your side. Take a sip of coffee gone cold. It tastes like burnt rubber, but you welcome the bitterness anyway. Your tongue curls at the edge of the cup, and you make a face, muttering something sarcastic to the universe. If the pulsar heard, it gives no reply. Another glitch. Tiny, almost imperceptible. You circle it in your notebook with extra flourish. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's the start of a story. The act of circling feels dramatic, though, like planting a flag on barren land. Here be dragons, you think, though really it's here be an anomalous data point that'll probably turn out to be interference. Still, you cling to the drama. It keeps you awake. The room hums on. Fans churn, wires whisper. A faint tick of your wristwatch competes with the cosmic rhythm. You try syncing your breathing to the pulsar beat. Inhale, exhale. It almost works until your body rebels and coughs. You laugh at yourself softly, the sound vanishing into static. You jot another line, then another. The page looks endless. Your hand cramps. You shake it out, flexing your fingers like a pianist, pausing mid-sonata. The absurdity hits you. Somewhere, deep in space, a neutron star spins perfectly, while here on Earth, your flesh and bone hand struggles to keep up with ink. Cosmic perfection versus human frailty score one for the universe. The night drags forward, but you lean into it. You imagine the pulsar itself is your coworker, tapping out its unending time card. You're just the clerk, logging its hours. Maybe, in some strange bureaucracy of the cosmos, you're both equally unimportant. The thought is oddly comforting. You scribble the next row. The numbers are the same as before, yet you give them a little nod of respect. Not for being exciting, but for being stubbornly, relentlessly there. You slouch deeper into the chair, stretching your legs under the desk until your shoes bump against the cold metal frame. The heater rattles in the corner, groaning like an old man, but it never seems to push enough warmth into the observatory. You pull your sweater tighter, feel the pen slip a little in your hand, and glance back at the rolling stream of pulses. They keep coming, like footsteps on a cosmic staircase, one after another, after another. At first, it's dull. Then you realize each tick you jot is the actual heartbeat of a star that died eons ago. Its core collapsed, its outer layers blasted into space, but somehow, what remains is still ticking like a ghost clock, refusing to wind down. Mainstream fact. Pulsars spin so fast because when the star collapses, its angular momentum is conserved. Like an ice skater pulling in their arms to spin faster, except this skater is the size of a city and weighs more than the sun. You picture some cosmic Olympian doing a pirouette, except instead of applause, there's just the cold void. Your notebook fills line by line, but your brain drifts sideways. Fringe tidbit. Some people once suggested pulsars could be artificial beacons from advanced civilizations. The famous LGM-1 nickname stands for Little Green Men. You grin at the thought. Some poor grad student in 1967, nervously scribbling, wondering if aliens were trying to call. It's always aliens, until ISN single quotes T. Astronomers still argue whether certain glitches in pulsars, sudden jumps in rotation speed, are caused by interior superfluid shifting or starquakes cracking the crust. You tap your pen thoughtfully. Superfluid, starquakes. The words sound like science fiction weaponry, not actual astrophysical debates. And yet, here they are, scribbled on whiteboards around the world. Your eyes sting, heavy with fatigue. But you keep going. You imagine each. Tick is a breadcrumb in some vast cosmic trail, leading deeper into the forest of the universe. Hansel and Gretel would have loved a pulsar, though good luck building. A gingerbread house at 10 million degrees. The desk lamp throws a pale cone of light over your notes, leaving the rest of the observatory in murky shadow. You squint, and, in your peripheral vision, the equipment seems alive. The tall rack of instruments resembles a guard, standing at attention. The coiled cables look like serpents, slithering quietly across the floor. It's silly, but it makes you hunch lower, like a child hiding beneath a blanket. Your pen slips again. You smear ink across your palm, a dark blue stain. You sigh, wipe it against your jeans, and imagine in some distant future an archaeologist digs up those jeans and wonders if the mark was ceremonial. Humans and their ink, always marking, always measuring. You pause, ears pricked. Did the static just shift? It's still hiss, endless hiss, but you'd swear the tone dipped half a note. You lean in, holding your breath, listening. But no, the signal is steady, pulses sharp as ever. Your mind is playing tricks. The universe does not improvise lullabies for sleepless observers. Or does it? You shake your head, smiling. Another line of numbers. Another doodle in the Mariner rocket, with crooked fins. Your handwriting grows messy. You think of monks in candlelit monasteries, their script immaculate, even when they copied nonsense for hours. You, by contrast, can't even keep your 7 as consistent. Still, you're in good company. Monks had their chance. You have your pulsars. Same devotion, different soundtrack. You roll your neck, vertebrae cracking faintly. Your body aches, but the strangeness of the task keeps you awake. You're writing not for glory, not for an audience, but simply to keep track of a dead stars. Stubborn rhythm. There's something humbling in that, something grounding. The coffee is long gone, and you miss it. You consider chewing the pen cap just for stimulation. You don't, but the thought lingers. Instead, you press on, another row, another set of ticks. You think back to earlier trying to breathe in rhythm with the pulses. The idea seems absurd now. Still, you catch yourself tapping your foot softly under the desk, syncing with the beat. A personal metronome. No drummer needed when the cosmos provides percussion. Your hand cramps again, fingers stiff, so you shake them out and sigh. You glance down at your notes page after page of tiny regimented numbers. For a moment, it looks like sheet music. You imagine handing it to a pianist and saying, "Play the star." What would it sound like? Probably terrible. But still, the idea of turning neutron star pulses into a lullaby feels perfect. You close the notebook for a moment, press your palm to its cover, and let out a long exhale. The star will keep spinning whether you record it or not. But still, you open the book again. You can't help yourself. You write the next line. The pencil scratches again, softer this time, because your wrist has grown tired of pushing. The numbers blur. You blink hard, then focus, forcing the digits back into shape. The pulses do not wait. They keep arriving with brutal punctuality, like the ticking of a clock in a room where you are not allowed to leave. You wonder what it would be like to live on a world circling a pulsar. Mainstream fact. Such systems exist, pulsar planets, strange rocky bodies discovered by the wobble they caused in the timing of their stars' pulses. Imagine standing there, your sky dominated by a faint, searingly bright lighthouse beam, sweeping past in perfect rhythm. Your days and nights not ruled by a sun, but by a relentless cosmic strobe dot. It would feel less like a home and more like a prison yard under a guard. Tower spotlight. And yet, if life adapts, who is to say it couldn't feel normal? Plants might photosynthesize only when the beam strikes. Entire ecosystems could pulse in rhythm, opening and closing like lungs to the beat of their star. Static in your headphones grows louder as you think about it. Not really louder, just your mind turning up the volume. You lean back, rub your eyes, and the world inside the observatory swims. The ceiling above seems higher than it was an hour ago, shadows deepening into black wells. The heaters rattle, syncs with the pulse for a few moments, then falls out of step, leaving a faint dissonance that scratches at your nerves. You look down again at your notes, each line a record of something impossibly far away, impossibly old. It feels absurd. You, a single tired human in a chair, trying to pin down the heartbeat of a ghost star with ink and paper. You smile faintly. This is what humans do. We trap the infinite in ledgers and charts, like medieval accountants tallying eternity. Fringe speculation. Some researchers toyed with the idea that pulsar signals could serve as a galactic GPS beacon stable enough for navigation across light years. You imagine a spacecraft centuries from now, hopping between stars, steering by these faint lighthouses. The crew tapping coordinates into a console, trusting the dead to guide the living. The thought makes you shiver. You shift, pull the sweater tighter, and scribble a margin note. Navigation. The ink blot spreads into the paper, as though it were drinking your idea. Hiding it away, your ears strain again. Another dip in the hiss? Maybe just fatigue, maybe not. The mind hunts patterns and noise. It always has. Sometimes those patterns are real. Sometimes they are only shadows of thought. You breathe in, hold it, exhale slowly. The room feels too still, as if even the air is waiting. The lamp hums faintly. The pulses continue indifferent. Your eyelids sag, heavy, and you scrawl another line with clumsy strokes. For a moment, the pen's ink seems to blur into shapes letters that are not quite letters, almost forming words. You shake your head, blink, and the illusion fades. Just numbers again. Just pulses. You wonder, if you keep this up long enough, will you begin to dream with your eyes open? Will the star start whispering in its own peculiar rhythm, carving messages into your tired brain? Your chest rises and falls with a deep sigh. The heater rattles on. The star spins on. And you, notebook open, carry on recording the endless beat. Your handwriting has grown increasingly erratic, looping and crooked, but the pulses remain unchanged, each one hammering across light years with perfect fidelity. That mismatch makes you chuckle under your breath, your tired human body stumbling. Yet the dead star out there keeps time like a metronome, carved from stone. Mainstream fact. Pulsars slow down, but very, very gradually. Milliseconds added over centuries. Astronomers can predict a single pulse years in advance, down to a fraction of a second. It's like scheduling an appointment with eternity, one you can't be late for. You flip back through the earlier pages of your notebook. The inked lines ripple like tree rings, each marking a cycle of attention and distraction, focus and fatigue. There's comfort in the repetition, in knowing that even as your pen falters, the pattern you're tracking is secure, almost smug in its reliability. Still, your mind wanders. A fringe tidbit slips in how some science fiction authors imagined pulsars as alien beacons. Not random lighthouses, but intentional ones. Navigational waypoints or warning signals meant for civilizations not yet born. You smirk, imagining some long-vanished galactic engineer slapping a caution, falling star debris sign across the Milky Way. It's absurd, but your tired brain almost wants to believe. The hiss in your headphones shifts again, or maybe your perception does. The static rises, then ebbs like a wave, cresting with each pulse. You begin to feel the rhythm, not just in your ears, but in your chest, as if the beat has crawled out of the wires and into your rib cage. For a moment, you swear your breathing has fallen into sync with the star. Astronomers still argue whether some micro-pulse's tiny fluctuations, buried in the noise, are artifacts of the telescope or real quirks of the neutron star itself. You decide tonight that they're real, if only because your notebook feels lonelier without them. You lean your forehead into your palm, fingers pressed hard against your temple. Behind closed eyelids, the darkness strobes faintly, like distant lightning behind a mountain. The pulses are everywhere now, in the hum of the lamp, in the radiator's uneven clatter, even in the faint drumming of your heartbeat dot. It makes you wonder. If you listen long enough, does the line between signal and self blur? Do you become just another receiver, tuned permanently to a star that died before mammals even crawled the earth? You scratch one last equation across the paper, the numbers trailing downward like a ladder into the dark. Your pen halts mid-stroke. The silence of the observatory presses closer, not another beat. Another pulse, another scratch of ink. The universe keeps counting, and you keep trying to follow. The notebook is nearly full now. The margins are cluttered with side notes and sleepy doodles. A crude spiral galaxy here, a stick-figure astronomer waving a telescope there. Your wrist aches, but still you trace line after line, following the pulse as if it were a trail left by some patient cosmic animal. Mainstream fact. Pulsars are so regular that astronomers have proposed using them as cosmic GPS. By comparing the arrival times of signals from several known pulsars, a spacecraft could triangulate its position anywhere in the galaxy. Imagine plotting a course not by stars in the sky, but by the skeletal ticks of collapsed ones. The idea makes you pause, tapping your pen. A spaceship adrift, guided by the corpses of stars. There's poetry there. A little grim, but still comforting, like letting your grandparents' wristwatches steer your way home. You glance up at the blinking console, its green digits soft and hypnotic. The telescope never complains, never dozes off. It just waits, collecting data, letting the sky wash through it. You envy that kind of patience. And then your mind drifts again, snagging on a quirky tidbit. In the 1970s, NASA's Voyager probes were etched with pulsar maps, a kind of interstellar address. Label: 14 pulsars, carefully drawn, their relative distances marking our place in the galaxy. An alien finding that disk could, if they understood pulsars, track us down. You chuckle quietly, thinking that if they do show up, you hope they bring coffee. Astronomers still argue whether such maps were bold optimism or reckless risk. Was it a cosmic handshake or painting a target on Earth? You yawn, dismissing the thought. After all, if aliens can decode pulsar geometry, they probably won't care about our clumsy planet anyway. You let your eyes close for a second too long, and when they open again, you've scrawled a crooked diagonal line across the paper, cutting through 3 neat columns of numbers. It looks almost deliberate, like a scar. Maybe your notebook is recording you just as faithfully as you're recording the pulsar each lapse. Each mistake etched into history. You sit back, stretching, and the creak of the chair feels louder than the universe. But the pulses return, steady, unbroken. Their indifference is oddly soothing. No matter what you do, scribble errors, drift off, spill ink, the star doesn't care. It just keeps ticking, as if mocking your need to document it. Still, you keep writing, because maybe it's not about accuracy anymore. Maybe it's about listening until the rhythm replaces the noise of your own restless mind. Another beat, another entry, another silent pact with a star that doesn't know you exist. The night stretches on, folding in on itself like an endless accordion. Your eyes sting and your back aches from hunching over the notebook, but the pulses keep calling you forward. Each line you record feels simultaneously trivial and monumental. Quiet act of devotion to a star that will never notice. Mainstream fact. Pulsars emit radiation primarily in the radio spectrum, which is why radio telescopes are our eyes for these objects. You imagine yourself peering into that invisible light, translating it into marks on paper, a modern scribe of cosmic Morse code. It's boring, yes, but there's a hypnotic comfort in the repetition, a kind of gentle meditation that even caffeine can't quite disturb. Your mind drifts to fringe speculation. A handful of researchers have suggested that pulsar signals could theoretically carry information, like a cosmic telegram. You chuckle softly. Perhaps some alien civilization left us messages in plain sight, and humans, predictably, missed them entirely. Maybe they're laughing now, or maybe they're too busy to care. Either way, the thought nudges a smile across your exhausted face. Astronomers still argue whether some pulsar irregularities, the tiny, almost imperceptible changes in pulse arrival, come from internal dynamics or from the star's environment. You lean forward, squinting at your notes, trying to catch the subtle rhythm, wondering if your tired fingers are missing some nuance. The heater groans behind you, echoing the room's stillness. Outside, the desert is a black expanse, silent, except for the occasional wind whispering through the sparse brush. The pulses feel almost tactile now, a beat you can feel in your chest as well as hear in the static. You pause to take a sip of lukewarm coffee, grimace, and set the thermos aside. The taste is bitter, but somehow grounding. It reminds you of all the nights you've spent chasing other obsessions, scribbling numbers in half-lit rooms, chasing signals too subtle for casual attention. A small glitch flits across the console, a voom, slight irregularity in the otherwise perfect rhythm. You circle it, muttering a quiet, "Well, hello there," as if the pulsar had winked at you. Your pen hovers, then scribbles the notation in careful, if shaky, handwriting. It's a minor triumph, but in this quiet vigil, small victories are magnified. You stretch your shoulders, let your neck crack softly. The room hums, the pulses march on, and you wonder if somewhere, in some distant observatory, another observer is tracking the same star. Perhaps they're also half asleep, half dreaming, scribbling their own patterns into the margin of human understanding. The lines on your page blur slightly. You shake your head, refocus, and continue writing. There is a rhythm here, both outside and within. You begin to see the pulse not just as a signal from a distant star, but as a companion, a steady, indifferent presence accompanying you through the long desert night. Another entry, another pulse, another quiet acknowledgement of the universe's stubborn persistence. You stretch your cramped fingers and shift in your chair, letting out a small groan that mingles with the low hum of the heater. The notebook lies open, lines of numbers and doodles, weaving a patchwork of your own half-asleep devotion. The pulses continue relentless, each one a tiny hammer striking across the void, indifferent to your fatigue. Mainstream fact. Pulsars can rotate hundreds of times per second, with some of the fastest known spinning at over 700 rotations per second. You imagine standing on the surface of one such star. If you somehow survived the gravity, you'd barely have time to blink before the ground beneath your feet spun a complete turn. Your mind shudders at the thought, a cheeky reminder that reality often outpaces imagination. A fringe tidbit surfaces. In the 1990s, some scientists speculated that pulsar timing irregularities could be used as a natural timekeeping standard, far surpassing atomic clocks for certain astronomical purposes. You smirk. Somewhere in the cosmos, a pulsar is keeping better time than any human-crafted device. Your wristwatch feels suddenly inadequate. Astronomers still argue whether certain abrupt changes in pulse timing, the so-called glitches, are caused by internal superfluid rearrangements or crustal starquakes. You glance at the tiny marks in your notebook. Could your own hand, so imperfect and inconsistent, hope to keep pace with such perfection? Your eyes close for a moment, exhaustion pinning them shut, but the mind does not rest. You imagine the telescope as a patient friend, its antennas sweeping silently, gathering signals with unwavering devotion. Your pen scratches again, each line a whisper, a dialogue with something immensely distant, yet intimately present. Outside, the desert remains black and silent. The stars shimmer faintly beyond the windows, not blinking, just being. The small Magellanic Cloud, a ghostly smear of distant light, hangs low in the sky, a reminder of the universe's vast scale and your small, persistent vigil. You sip the last of your lukewarm coffee, grimacing, and set the thermos aside. The taste is bitter, grounding. You scribble a small doodle of a spaceship navigating by pulsars, imagining the crew half awake, taking comfort in the certainty of stellar rhythm, the hum of the heater, the occasional creak of the chair, and the steady pulse on the console blend into a lullaby of the cosmos. You feel your own heartbeat sinking, not perfectly, but close enough, a gentle echo of the distant star. Numbers, doodles, rhythms all continue. You lean forward, pen in hand, ready for the next pulse, the next line. You lean back, stretching your arms above your head, trying to crack the stiffness that has taken residence in your shoulders. The notebook in front of you is a mosaic of careful numbers and occasional sketches rockets with crooked fins, smiley faces beside strange sequences of digits. It feels almost alive under your fingers, a little archive of your vigil with the pulsar.mainstream fact. Pulsars emit beams of electromagnetic radiation that sweep past Earth like cosmic lighthouses. You picture the beam cutting through the darkness of space, spinning steadily, unwavering, oblivious to the small, cramped human scribbling numbers thousands of light years away. Its constancy is almost comforting, like the tick of a grandfather clock in a quiet house. Fringe tidbit. In some science fiction circles, pulsars have been theorized as potential interstellar beacons, their consistent rhythms guiding ships across vast stretches of the galaxy. You chuckle, imagining a lone pilot sipping tepid coffee while aligning course by the beat of a dead star. Somehow, the thought makes your own exhaustion feel shared. Astronomers still argue whether certain micropulses within the signal are intrinsic to the star or artifacts of interstellar interference. You glance at your notes, wondering if any of your scribbled lines have accidentally captured one of these elusive features. Perhaps a small human mistake will record a truth that eludes even the best instruments. The desert outside remains an inky black canvas, dotted with faint, shimmering stars. The small Magellanic Cloud hangs low, a distant smear of light. You imagine the pulse from your star, traveling past countless worlds, silently ticking away, untouched by time or gravity. Your own heartbeat seems to match, a quiet echo in the human part of the universe. Your pen hesitates over the next line. You doodle a tiny cartoon star with a smile, and it seems almost like a nod to the pulsar itself, a gesture of acknowledgement for its stubborn rhythm. The hum of the heater, the faint whisper of static, the scratching of your pen, they blend together into a slow, gentle cadence. Coffee long gone, your fingers stiff, you press on. Another row of numbers, another tiny margin sketch, another breath. Drawn slowly to stay awake, the cosmic metronome continues. You imagine it far beyond human comprehension, yet strangely intimate tonight, almost a companion. The notebook, the pen, the pulsar, and you each a note in a quiet nocturne. The night stretches on, and you are willing to follow it wherever it goes. Your eyes burn from staring at the lines of numbers, but you resist closing them for more than a second at a time. Each pulse still arrives with unwavering precision, a steady metronome of the cosmos, reminding you that the universe does not care about fatigue or deadlines. Yet somehow, that indifference feels comforting rather than cruel. Mainstream fact. Pulsars can emit in multiple wavelengths simultaneously: radio, X-ray, even gamma rays. You picture layers of invisible light slicing through the universe, overlapping and weaving like a celestial symphony. You can't hear directly, but can sense in the tremor of your imagination. A fringe thought drifts through your mind. Some theorists once speculated pulsar emissions could be harnessed as an energy source, a kind of cosmic battery. You chuckle quietly. Imagine plugging in your toaster to a neutron star. Breakfast would never be ordinary again. Astronomers still argue whether sudden glitches in pulse timing indicate interior superfluid dynamics or crustal starquakes. You squint at your notebook, fingers cramped, and consider if your own mistakes mirror those mysterious irregularities. Human fallibility, echoing the star's quirks in a poetic, unintended symmetry. You lift your gaze from the page and watch the faint hum of the telescope's electronics. They pulse almost in sympathy with the star. You lean back, feeling the chair creak, and let your mind drift, following the pulse into a daydream. The desert beyond the observatory is a black sheet dotted with faint pinpricks of light, silent but alive. The small Magellanic cloud shimmers low on the horizon, a reminder that your work is but a ripple in a vast ocean. You trace a finger along the notebook, imagining your tiny scratches of ink as another kind of signal, a human pulse sent across time, quietly echoing the cosmic rhythm you're tracking. Your pen hovers and then scribbles a small, uneven diagram, the geometry of pulsar beams. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. Tonight, perfection belongs to the star, and you, merely an attentive scribe, witness and record. The heater rattles again, soft and persistent. You stretch your neck, roll your shoulders, and continue. Another line of numbers, another pulse, another small mark connecting your attention to a star that has outlasted civilizations and will continue outlasting you, even as exhaustion creeps further into your bones. The rhythm, the scratch of your pen, and the hum of the observatory forge. A lullaby only you could hear. Your hands ache, but you continue, following the rhythm of the pulsar as if it were a gentle guide. The notebook before you is a landscape of ink, numbers, and small sketches, tiny islands of human effort in a sea of cosmic order. Each entry feels like a conversation with a star that cannot answer, yet somehow does. Mainstream fact. Pulsars are neutron stars, remnants of massive stars that exploded in supernova. Their density is unimaginable. Just a teaspoon of material would weigh billions of tons. You picture the paradox. Such small objects, so incomprehensibly heavy, spinning endlessly in space, and here you are, tracing their heartbeat with a pencil. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some pulsars emit beams that sweep so precisely, they have been nicknamed cosmic clocks. You imagine telling the time by staring at a star, seconds measured not by a wristwatch, but by pulses of radiation traveling across light years. Somehow, that notion is oddly soothing. Astronomers still argue whether the slow drifts in pulse, arrival times reflect intrinsic changes in the star, or subtle gravitational effects from nearby bodies. You circle some numbers in your notebook, wondering if you've glimpsed such a drift tonight. Maybe your tired fingers have tracked a truth too, subtle for casual eyes. The desert night presses against the observatory walls, silent except for the occasional rustle of wind through sparse shrubs. You sip the last drops of tepid coffee, grimacing at the bitterness, but find comfort in the ritual. Each action scribbling, sipping, adjusting your chair is a tiny anchor in an infinite sea of cosmic events. Your eyelids grow heavy, but the pulse draws you forward, a quiet insistence that cannot be ignored. You lean back slightly, tracing the path of the signal with your eyes, and imagining the beam spinning across unimaginable distances, brushing past worlds that may never know it exists. Fringe speculation again. Could civilizations long gone have once observed the same pulse? You imagine ancient astronomers looking up at the sky, noting patterns in the light, unaware that their ancestors' distant signals would someday be tracked by a tired human in a remote desert observatory. You stretch your fingers, crack your neck, and continue writing, following the rhythm, feeling the strange companionship of a star that has outlived millennia. Another beat, another number, another quiet note in the ledger of eternity. Your fingers tremble slightly as you reach the final pages of your notebook. The numbers blur into soft shadows, yet the pulses continue, indifferent to your fatigue or triumphs. You lean back, letting the chair cradle you, and take a deep, steadying breath. The room hums, the heater rumbles, and the faint hiss from the telescope blends with the cosmic rhythm outside. Mainstream fact. The rotational periods of pulsars can range from milliseconds to several seconds, creating a diversity in signals that helps astronomers classify them. You imagine the vast catalog of stars spinning silently, each with its own pulse, its own story. You are just one attentive observer, tracing a single heartbeat in a chorus of millions. A quirky thought crosses your mind. Some have imagined using pulsar signals as a musical score, converting pulse patterns into melodies. You smile at the absurdity tonight. You feel as if you've composed a symphony of numbers, ink, and quiet observation. The rhythm of the star is your conductor, the scratching pen your instrument. Astronomers still argue whether the tiniest irregularities in pulse timing carry meaningful information or a mere cosmic noise. You glance at your pages, wondering if any of your scribbles have accidentally captured such secrets. Perhaps your tired human errors have drawn you closer to an elusive truth. The desert outside is still. The small Magellanic Cloud hangs low, faintly shimmering. Your mind drifts, picturing distant worlds bathed in the pulses you record. For a moment, the boundary between observer and observed feels fluid. You are part of the rhythm, even if just for tonight, just for a few hours of attentive listening. You stretch, savoring the slow, deliberate movements of your body, letting the aches settle into comfort. The pen hovers over the last empty lines. You finish the final notation and lay the pen down, feeling the notebook's weight in your lap. Another beat, another pulse. The star continues, and so do you, connected across incomprehensible distances by the simple act of attention. Slowly, you close your eyes, letting your breathing match the distant pulse. The hum, the hiss, the desert night all fade into a soft, gentle lullaby. You feel the rhythm receding, not abruptly, but like a tide withdrawing, leaving behind calm certainty. The vast, indifferent cosmos has shared its heartbeat with you tonight, and in turn, you have honored it with your own quiet presence. Word count, 1067. When down pen rests finally, and the notebook lies closed, its pages heavy with your vigil. The desert night is quiet, stretching endlessly, yet somehow intimate. You feel the pulse of the pulsar still in your mind, slower now, gentler, like a heartbeat whispering in the distance. Your breathing softens, each inhale and exhale syncing imperfectly with the cosmic rhythm you've followed. There is no hurry, no pressing task, just the slow receding of the day's fatigue, the subtle warmth of the heater, the faint hum of the room. The stars outside, faint and steady, remind you of the scale of everything, and yet, paradoxically, of your place within it. A single attentive observer, witnessing a pulse that has outlasted countless generations, carving a gentle groove into your consciousness. You might drift into sleep now, carrying with you the gentle cadence of distant light. The universe is vast, timeless, indifferent, but tonight it has included you in its silent conversation. You are safe, you are still, and you are exactly where you need to be. The night folds over you like a soft blanket. Every creak, every hum, every pulse is a lullaby. Close your eyes and let it all fade. Let the star continue its steady vigil, and let yourself drift, slow and easy, into the gentle arms of sleep.